Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley. I'm joined by Ryan McGinley, live from Hampden, and we're here to talk through Celtic's thumping 5-0 win over St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Before we get into all the talking points, all the good stuff that happened today, a quick word from our sponsor. The Celtic Way is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Ryan, how are you? Are you a happy man after what we witnessed at Hampden Park today?
Yeah, pretty satisfied after that, to be honest with you. 4 goals in 11 minutes of football. Started off with McGregor. Just, I thought that Celtic took their time to get into the game. They were completely dominant from start to finish, but they took a wee while to get turn on their style. But once they did, that 4 goal flurry that they had before half time, they got a standing ovation coming off at half time. They deserved it because they were scintillating. So many good performers, so many that we could talk about. Not just the goal scorers, but those that were actually instrumental in making the goals happen as well. Even defenders playing as playmakers. It was one of those days where everything just seemed to go right for Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get into all the goals. If you've been living under a rock for the last few hours and you missed the game, Celtic obviously won 5-0 against St Johnstone. A goal from Callum McGregor opened the scoring, and there was a double from Daisy Maida. Adam Ida got in on the scoring act, and Jota came off the bench to score within minutes as well to put a smile on everyone's face. It was a comprehensive, pretty simple, straightforward, comfortable performance from start to finish, I would suggest, Ryan. It took a little bit for Celtic to get going, just to build into the occasion of the game and try and work around St Johnstone, who I thought St Johnstone's positioning and work ethic in that opening half an hour was pretty good. And then they started getting a little bit sloppy, and that's when you started to see the quality of Celtic tell, specifically in the build-up to Callum McGregor's goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Callum McGregor goal was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. I've watched it a couple of times since it's happened. You get where we're seated at Hampden, you've got the monitor next to you, so we got to watch the goal in all of its glory. It was even better the second time. It was great watching it live. The back heel from Rio Hatate into Callum McGregor. Initial good play from Johnson to Forrest to Hatate to McGregor. It was just a bit of individual brilliance by all 4 of those players collectively. But I felt like Celtic were just working out their opponents. They were working out how they were playing, how they were going to exploit them, taking their time, not go as far as playing with their food, almost like waiting to make that moment to strike. But they were figuring out their opponents, and once they knew the wavelength that they had to execute in order to get beyond their opponents, and they just hit them, and they were absolutely ruthless for those 11 minutes. St Johnstone didn't know what hit them. They were what is going on here, because it can go from nothing each after half an hour. You're thinking you've started the game well. All of a sudden, the team talk changes for Simo Valakari because his team's 4-0 down at half time, and changes had to be made at half time in order to counter that. But yeah, I thought Celtic just took their time, worked out their opponents, and then they struck when they needed to, and it was just comprehensive in the end. It was just really, really good to watch. A controlled performance from start to finish with that clinical edge. Simo Valakari, as we spoke about, I think we spoke about it pre-match, or maybe after the match, with what he was saying about Celtic before the McDermott Park game, saying that he likes Celtic's ruthlessness. He's seen Celtic's ruthlessness this afternoon. Unfortunately, that comment came back to bite him, and Celtic came back to bite him as well. But yeah, it was just a really good performance, good attacking performance, and controlled throughout.
So you're there at Hampden, and you spoke to a few players after the game. I believe one of the players you spoke to was Callum McGregor himself. What was kind of the message from him? Obviously, I assume he was happy with what he's seen from his team.
Yeah, it was quite a funny one, because you'll see it in the video when it comes out. Whenever it comes out on the channel, you hear his voice is a little bit hoarse. So I was like, have you been shouting even after a 5-0 game? If so, then that just shows the standards that he has. Even at half time, I was talking to a player, and he said that the message was to go and get more goals in the second half. That was the aim. Don't let off. Don't make it become a procession. Go for more goals in the game and see what you can do. Granted, they only got the 1 goal, but 5-0. We would have all taken that before the game. I predicted 4-0 at full time, so having 4-0 at half time, I was like, right, what could this be? But yeah, McGregor, I spoke to McGregor, Arnott Engels, Liam Scales, and Jota as well, and all 4 of them were in really good spirits. They know that the job's not finished. They've got a final coming up next month against Aberdeen that we can all talk about officially. Celtic are in that final. We're going to go for the treble. But yeah, they were all delighted with how the team played and the synergy between the players. It was quite clear that it was a team effort today, and they were all delighted with how they all worked together in order to get the victory.
Yeah, well, we'll have videos from the players and the manager coming up on the YouTube channel as recorded videos. They won't be live, but they'll be going up as soon as we can kind of turn around the processing of that. A couple of them will be up tonight, so you can look out for that later. Now, Daisa Maeda can't stop scoring, Ryan. I think it's 33 goals in 46 matches for Celtic this season, which is a remarkable return. Another double again today. Cal McGregor kind of was at the heart of the build-up to Dyson's first goal, and he took both his goals well, didn't he? He just doesn't seem to know how to miss really right now.
He's a bit of an assassin in front of goal at the moment for Celtic. You only need to give him chances, individual chances, and he'll score them. He's now the top goal scorer outright in the Scottish Cup at the moment, which is some going considering you've got teams coming in the earlier rounds. Sometimes you see that the goal scoring records can be a wee bit skewed, but Maeda's now outright the top goal scorer, and you would fancy him to score again against Aberdeen next month in front of goal. That pass through, it was a good pass through from McGregor. Unlucky from the St Johnstone defender that he kind of got
Clark,
his studs on it.
Yeah.
If you give Dice Maeda an inch, he'll take it, and that's what happened. And it felt like a foregone conclusion, like it was against Hearts when Maeda goes through in front of goal. You know it's going to be a goal. You know he's going to score. That rashness seems to have completely evaporated in his game, and it's great to see. And the numbers and the improvement in his overall game, because he wasn't even starting up front today. He played through the middle in the second half. That the goals were coming from left wing today, so that's so impressive. The numbers are brilliant. There's now strength and depth in those areas as well. I just want him managed as effectively as possible. As much as I want to see him hit that 40 goal mark, which I think will happen from now until the end of the season, might even happen in the final, might get to that 40 total. I want him managed as well as possible because he's so important for Celtic. He is Celtic's most important player and their biggest goal getter at the moment. So wrap him under relative cotton wool.
It's touch and go in terms of like whether he's going to hit that 40 mark. He has a chance of it though. I think he has a wee outside chance of it, and certainly if he's hitting doubles for the next few games, that would go a long way to it, obviously. And Celtic's scoring in general is remarkable. I mean, I think they're closing in on all sorts of generational style scoring records for the season, just for the amount of goals they're sticking away in all competitions. As you mentioned, Daisa Maeda 7 goals in the Scottish Cup alone, which is outstanding. And it's great to see he's performed in every single tournament this year for Celtic. It's phenomenal. And Adam Idah shown that he can chip in with a goal or two still as well. And it's been obviously a bit of a strange week for Adam Idah. I don't think he realised he was going to be at the centre of a social media storm in terms of the videos that were doing the rounds of his night out. And Brendan Rodgers then spoke about that in his Friday press conference. Very supportive of the player, backing the player to the hilt, not just in terms of the video being published and being shared across social media and how that could affect someone, but just in a sense of talking up his professionalism and the way he deals with nutrition, etc. There was a lot. It was very public backing from Brendan Rodgers, and Adam Idah kind of repaid that today. He was in the right place at the right time, as Brendan Rodgers said in his press conference after, and that's what Brendan Rodgers wants him to do. That's where he wants him to be with these low crosses coming into the 6-yard box. That's where Adam needs to be more often than not. He even missed the chance in the second half, but it's great to see him scoring as well.
Absolutely, and I think he's been managed perfectly from the manager, Brendan Rodgers. From what he said in his press conference, he took a holistic view on it, and the fact that being a footballer is difficult for these players, especially being in the public eye. They can't let their hair down for 1 second, or it will be put on social media. That happened to be the case, and it was unfortunate to see that, but nobody would begrudge him going out tonight after scoring again in the semi-final against St Johnstone. And it was a really good finish. Yes, he had to be there, but it's all about the cross from Hatate. Originally, the ball from Liam Scales, who was playing more of a playmaker today than a defender. He didn't have to do a lot of defending, but that pass to Hatate was, that goal in general was a joy to watch. And Hatate with the cross in, it's perfectly weighted. It's not as if it's a strong ball into the box, but perfectly weighted, and it's begging to be attacked by Adam Idah. He's there at the right place at the right time, and he got the goal. And that was in the middle of that flurry of goals that was happening. I think that was the third of the 4 goals. It was just I think Celtic were on easy streets at that point. And
again, if anyone didn't see the game, there was a flurry of 4 goals just before halftime, between half an hour and the 45-minute mark, that just blew St Johnstone away. Thrilling to watch. And as you say, Liam Scales with a lovely ball through. Rio Hatate peeled off and made that run a few times during the match. I think we should have special mention for Ray Otati because I thought he was outstanding again today. He was really good against Kilmarnock last week, but he was even more at the heart of things I felt today. Him and McGregor just absolutely orchestrated everything good in that Celtic performance for me. So I think we need to give Ray Otati his due here. He was excellent today.
I don't need any second invitation to talk about how good Rio Hatate can be. I've watched him his whole Celtic career having these games, and the thing is, he can be quite temperamental with his performances. Sometimes you're annoyed watching him because you're like, you've got more to your game here. There's so much when he's on his A game. He's absolutely unplayable, and that was the case today. I thought the three players that were the most in terms of that orchestra, orchestrating the play was Callum McGregor. Yes, I completely agree with that. Rio Hatate and Greg Taylor at left back, because he even at the beginning of the game he was stretching the wide players. He was stretching his marker and coming inside and making himself a nuisance in the midfield. By overflowing the midfield, he was allowing other players to not be marked, like Hatate and McGregor. McGregor had the freedom of Hampden Park to shoot, and that's because of all the movement that all these different players are making. It was fluid today and it worked for the whole midfield. Engels was quieter, but he still went about his business effectively, and he'll be hoping to have a bigger impact in the final, of course. But yeah, for Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate in particular, I thought the two of them were absolutely magnificent, and Hatate was pulling the strings, especially in that 11 minutes was like a highlight reel of everything good that Hatate can do. He's simply unplayable when he's in that form. Nobody can really stop him when he's in that frame of mind. Even with the what goal was it? Was it Maeda's goal? Maeda's second goal. He goes on a mazy run. And he beats about three players, and you're like, this spells danger for St Johnstone. Comes to Maeda. Maeda just hits it first time, and everything that he was hitting turned to gold, or goals, as we should say. But yeah, it was just a really good first half. That 4-goal and 11-minute period was just scintillating to watch. And at half time, and I've said it before at the start, there was an outpouring of noise from the Celtic support. They got that response that they wanted against St Johnstone. I think that result annoyed them at McDermott Park. As much as they don't talk about revenge, it was in their head, and they took it out on St Johnstone.
I don't know if you've had a chance, but I'm listening to what Brendan Rodgers had to say. Brendan Rodgers' Q&A, by the way, is up on the website. If anyone wants to go and look at it, it'll be on the YouTube channel later. But he mentioned that McDermott Park game within the first 10 seconds, I think. It did irk them, and it irked everyone. I think everyone was a bit, God, what is this all about? What Celtic have we seen here? But I think everyone's now feels like everyone's ready for a kind of party atmosphere between now and the end of the season. Other clubs' season's over, which I think helps a little bit as well for some reason. That's just the psychology and the nature of the rivalry. Their season's over. The good part of our season, the bulk of the partying time is still ahead. And I think we're kind of going to see that play out over the next few weeks. You agree with that?
I would completely agree with that, and I was actually going to make the point about other clubs' seasons ending. One on Thursday, one on Saturday with Hearts as well, losing to Aberdeen. Celtic have still got so much to play for. They've still got to go and win that title, and they want to win the title in style against Dundee United at Tannadice. Fingers crossed that they can do that. But it's all about maintaining that focus and maintaining that level as we get to the Scottish Cup final. I'm so glad that they're through to the final, because they've got something to focus on from now until the end of the season. They'll have trophy day, and then they'll have their big showpiece game against Aberdeen in the final. So it's great that the season isn't over. They've still got some work to do to finish the league title. That's inevitable, but they will get that done. And then all focus is on the Scottish
Aberdeen.
Cup, and and these games, you look at the players that were coming on after 60-65 minutes. These players want a position in that Scottish Cup final, so they've got to, even though they were on the bench this afternoon, they've got to prove a point. And having that squad depth is exciting, because there'll be changes and players looking to make that impact so that they are in the team at the end of May at Hampden against Aberdeen.
Talk about seasons within seasons. It feels like Aberdeen's had about 5 seasons in the space of the last 8 months, and they'll see this as like another mini go at finishing the season on a real high. It's almost fitting away, because Celtic and Aberdeen were the best teams in the league and in Scotland for a good few months at the start of the season. So it's kind of fitting in a way that they'll come together again and play it out for the trophy. And obviously, I think everyone, or most people, will be back in Celtic to pick up the treble in that regard. Brendan McCarthy saying, I thought James Forrest was brilliant today. I think James Forrest deserves a shout out today. I thought he was pretty good and getting into good spaces. And then Jim Forrest, assuming it's not James Forrest, said, what about the VAR decision on the penalty? James Forrest went down. and it looked like he was wiped out, and he wasn't completely wiped out by the player on the ground, the player lunging in. But I felt, and even on the VR review, and I don't know if this is just green tinted specs or whatever, but it felt like the player coming in did do enough for me to put him off balance and put him to the ground. So I was a bit surprised it was overturned, but I'm a bit confused about what what referees and what VAR decide is and isn't penalties these days. For me, it looked like a penalty to me, Ryan. I don't know how about you. I don't know if you've got a different view on that.
When I seen that the penalty was given and there was a wee bit of a delay before it was given, I was like, this is on the edge. I don't know if it's a clear and obvious error in which they can go and rescind it in favour of St Johnstone. But after watching the last angle of VAR, you can still see the arm hitting Forrest and he goes down.
Yeah.
There is contact between the player and James Forrest, so I don't see why it was. Are we chasing perfection in terms of going for more goals here? I don't know that Jota scored not long after, but
it seemed to me like he was trying to avoid the challenge from the first guy, and then he was off balancing a bit, and I just felt there was enough contact to kind of throw him off balance going in the other direction. I'm not going to complain about it too much because at the end of the day, Celtic have won 5-0 in the semi-final, but it was a slight annoyance because I thought James Forrest was getting ready to hit the penalty.
No, Adamida had that ball.
Or did he have that ball?
Straight away.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as the penalty was given, he went over and got the ball. And then Rio Hatate came over. It was like, is he going to cause a fuss here and look for he wants his first Hampden goal. He made it quite clear in his Celtic TV interview earlier on the week. He wanted a goal at Hampden at one point. Not apparently, he actually went over to the penalty spot so that the goalkeeper didn't put his studs in it and mess up the penalty spot.
Nice.
So he had that designated job of keeping the penalty spot clean and ready. But obviously the penalty didn't transpire. But it looked as if Adamida was going to take it. That was the last action for Adamida, was grabbing that ball because it was off like a minute later after that.
The kind of undercurrent or the side story to all that is James Forrest obviously chasing his the 16th consecutive season scoring for Celtic, and it would have been nice had he won a penalty. But of course, good insight from Ryan at the match there to give us a lowdown on what was actually going down there. Now we'll get around to Jota here because he came off the bench and scored an excellent goal, close range but a really tight angle, really good finish. The ball bounced just before it hit his foot. Lovely timed run, good cross from Alistair Johnston, who had combined well with Nicholas Kuhn for what felt the first time in a few weeks, and it was just like that was just another really classic goal from Celtic, and great cross, great finish, great build up. That was just exactly what we wanted to see.
It reminded me of the goal that Jota scored, his final goal for Celtic against Inverness Cali Thistle in the Scottish Cup final, in terms of that similar angle. He likes scoring that tight angle as well. I also remember he scored, was it against Dundee United, that he managed to score a header from a really intricate angle. That was good to see, and good to see that him coming off the bench, not taking it personally that he was a sub this afternoon, but coming on and wanting to make an impact. Nobody's doubting Jota's attitude. I was speaking to Jota after the game, and it's 5 minutes of brilliance, really, talking to Jota. He always gives really good answers and insightful answers, talking about his teammates, talking about James Forrest as well. He was I think it goes to show you, just going back to the James Forrest discussion about scoring and becoming he's close to becoming the most decorated Celtic player. That doesn't get spoke about in the dressing room, because Jota actually had to ask and say, could that happen this season? He didn't know about that, so it clearly isn't getting spoke about. It's just another game for Celtic and another game for James Forrest. So I like seeing that, and I like knowing that they're laser focused on the task ahead. Yes, individual accolades can come, and that'll be celebrated once they get reached. But the focus is on the team, and the focus is on getting that next trophy, because that's what it's all about. Celtic winning the next trophy.
Something else which I think might be talked about a little bit more over the coming weeks, if Celtic win the treble this year and Brendan Rodgers win the treble this year, I think he becomes the first Celtic manager in history to win a treble 3 times, which would be remarkable and just shows the kind of the nature of domination since Brendan Rodgers first pitched up at Celtic in 2016. It's remarkable that Celtic are on the verge of a 6th treble since then, a 9th treble in the club's entire history. This generation of domination type thing, it never ceases to amaze me when you just think about, when you stop and think about the scale of it. It is huge, it's massive, and it just doesn't seem like there's going to be a credible challenge, a consistent challenge for Celtic to stop this dominating run they've been on Scottish football for the last decade now.
Who would
more
have
than the
thought?
last decade.
I know.
Yeah.
Who would have thought Tom Rogic skying a penalty would have the domino effect, that trigger to this utter domination because of what happened after that game, the gloating that happened after that game, to bringing in Brendan Rodgers, to bringing in the success. You bring Lennon, Ange Postecoglou, and then Rodgers again. But that domination, apart from that one season, that one adverse season, it's remained consistent. Celtic have completely dominated the past decade, near 2 decades. And that's because of their hard work, because of their good recruitment, bringing in players that understand what it means to win, bringing in captains and keeping captains at the club that install that belief and install the leadership and that winning mentality. Because, you know, you could bring in loads of players and they just don't get it, and they would think that maybe second's acceptable. Having guys like Callum McGregor, Scott Brown before him, other names, Neil Lennon as the captain as well, having these winners in the team, it's just they're just a fantastically well-run club. And long may that continue. And it doesn't seem as if it's going to change. In fact, I think Celtic are just going to keep on pushing forward and maintaining that. They want to. I mean, people talk about them being the most successful club in Scotland. They want to. They want that to remain until whenever. You know, that's the aim. They've got to just keep that going. It's all about the next trophy, and they've put themselves in the best possible position with the win today. One win away from another treble. Brendan Rodgers could be the first manager to have 3 trebles. You know. Like we talk about trebles as if they're throwaways, but they're such big things that Celtic deal with business in trebles at the moment. It's become a bit of a commodity at Celtic, and that just shows you how successful they have been over the past decade or so.
Yeah, it's a little bit silly. I mean, before Brendan Rodgers arrived, trebles were a rarity. There'd only been 3-1. The last one that had been won was when I was a youngster, so God knows that was a while ago, under Martin O'Neill. And I just think it's just remarkable the scale of the way Brendan Rodgers has managed to instill this domestic relentlessness. And obviously, Ange Postecoglou was part of that too. Mm-hmm. Neil Lennon was a part of it as well in the midst of that. And it's just, it's outrageous, really. And you can feel the mentality shifting at Celtic towards this kind of, we want to pitch ourselves at the European level now. And I can feel that in Brendan Rodgers. I can feel it in the players. I can feel it increasingly in the support as well. You can sense when there was so much excitement about around the Champions League this year. And it was the first year that I felt for a long time that it felt like people were wanting Celtic to make tangible growth in that tournament rather than just seeing Europe as a bonus. I think the days of Europe being a bonus for Celtic have to be left behind everyone at the club. The board, the players, the manager, the fans, everyone needs to see Europe as almost a main event now, because like 6 trebles in less than a decade is almost shooty and stuff. It's ridiculous. And I think if Celtic have that focus on Europe, I think the domestic stuff should take care of itself, you know. But today's just another example, and obviously Celtic haven't won the treble yet. I think Aberdeen will give Celtic a pretty good game in that final, but it's just it's outrageous, really. And I think these days at Hampden always just reinforce it for me. Obviously, people think about this during the course of the season, but it's after these Hampden games that I'm just thinking Celtic are untouchable here.
Yeah, and the fans played their part this afternoon as well. So many Celtic fans. It was basically like a home game for Celtic this afternoon in Glasgow, which is the case when they play in Glasgow most of the time. But it's good to see at the National Stadium that, you know, the allocation was taken up by the, you know, St Johnstone were never going to take a big allocation anyway. So it's good that those spaces weren't left empty and they were given to Celtic fans who are desperate to go to the game. The crowd were in great voice for the duration. They applauded every player coming off as a sub. They applauded them at full time, at half time. It just seemed to be a real togetherness. I think the fact it was a bank holiday as well helped matters. Everybody seemed to be in a good mood. It was a great atmosphere from start to finish. Celtic took their time to work out St Johnstone, but once they did, you know, the decibels just continued to rise. And then when that fourth goal went in, you know, it was like just a euphoric noise, as if everybody knew that Celtic were going to be in that final, and it was party time already, basically, because they had another final to look forward to.
Yeah. Listen, I hope everyone's had a fantastic Easter on the channel. I hope you've had a good Easter, Ryan, certainly, at Hampden, witnessing that and then getting to speak to players after. We've got loads more on the channel. As I say, we've got Brendan Rodgers coming up. We've got some players coming up over to, you know, tonight and tomorrow, etc. Loads going up on the website. We know Tony Haggerty is popular on the YouTube channel. If you want to read his thoughts in game, he was also at Hampden today in the press box, and he had written thoughts as instant analysis on the website. If you want to read that, you'll hear a lot more from Tony tomorrow, speaking with Hamish on the morning briefing. So there's lots more different viewpoints, different opinions, different views on Celtic right now, both in the context of this domestic dominance and where the future goes. So we've got loads of it coming up on the Celtic Way. Thanks to everyone who joined us in the chat. Ryan, I'll just come to you. Any last thoughts before we head off here?
Just job. Basically, there was you didn't want any banana skins today. Just get the job done, but they did it with a bit of style as well. It's always good. Get the job done first, but do it with a little bit of style on top. And they certainly did that. All roads lead to Hampden again, the National Stadium, for the final.
It's going to be good. I think this is going to be a magic few weeks for Celtic. I think they're going to maintain this good feeling. It feels like they've maybe turned a little bit of a corner. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us live. Thanks for joining us in comments. Let us know what you thought about the game today, what where you think Celtic are going, what you think about all this domestic dominance. Leave your comments below, and we do read them all. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Easter Sunday. Enjoy your bank holidays off tomorrow. We've been the Celtic Way, and we'll catch you again on the morning briefing. Goodbye.
Cheers.